Over 2,000 years ago, an Athenian soldier sat down and wrote an actual instruction manual for owning a hunting dog. What puppy to pick, what to name it, what gear to buy, and how to tell when it's too sick to work. It survived. It's called the Cynegeticus, and it's the closest thing we have to a real dog owner's handbook from the ancient world. This all comes from Xenophon, an Athenian who lived roughly 430 to 354 BCE. Mercenary commander, historian, and experienced hunter, knew dogs the way a working handler does, not the way a poet imagines them. The Cynegeticus is technically a hare hunting manual, not a pet care guide, but hunting depended entirely on the dogs. So he wrote about them in detail anyway. Start with the breed, and Xenophon's ideal hound is the Laconian, from the region around Sparta, and he singles out two varieties: the Castorian, supposedly favoured by the hero Castor, and the Vulpine type, popularly believed to be part fox. That's biologically impossible. Dogs and foxes don't produce fertile offspring, but it shows Greeks were already trying to explain why some hounds looked sharper and leaner than others. His physical checklist is specific: a light, flat head with a broad snout for a strong bite, black bright eyes set high for keen sight, a long loose neck so the dog could twist through scrub without injury, straight forelegs built for hours of hard ground, not one sprint, compact high-knuckled feet that wouldn't wear out, a long, thin, straight tail for balance mid-chase. Every trait serves the same job: run a hare down and survive doing it, season after season. Xenophon is just as specific about temperament, culling for dogs too slack to work, too savage to control, or too easily distracted to stay on a scent, and he pins some of those faults on bad breeding, others on bad handling. Once you've picked one, there's the question of what to call it. Xenophon wants names short and easy to shout across a field, and he lists dozens: Psyche, Phylax, Guardian, Cara, Joy, Bia, Force, Horma, Impetus, or Charge. Others translate roughly to Blazer, Growler, and Counselor. Though the exact English equivalents are debated, ancient Greek naming conventions don't map cleanly onto modern ones. This is one of the most human details in the whole text, because it isn't just proof Greeks kept hunting dogs, it's proof of the specific sounds an owner might have actually yelled at one, mid-chase, 2,400 years ago. Before any of that, though, the dog needs equipment: a collar, a leash, and a surcingle, a body strap. Xenophon insists none of it should hurt the dog. Collars broad and soft to avoid chafing. The leash a separate hand loop rather than fused to the collar, since that gave the handler less control. The surcingle carries small stitched-on spurs, and Xenophon's stated reason is keeping the breed line pure, meaning owners were actively stopping their hounds from mating with whatever dog was nearby during a hunt. For the actual hunt, he also details purse nets staked around a hare's likely path, and long hays, cord nets used to funnel the animal toward the hounds rather than letting it bolt into open ground. Long before any of that gear gets used, there's the matter of raising the dog in the first place. Xenophon works backward from birth. A bitch's heat runs about 14 days. Mate her near the end of it. Gestation runs around 60 days. Rest hunting bitches overwinter so they whelp in spring, the best growing season, and cut back on hunting them near term, since he'd seen overwork cause miscarriages. Leave puppies with the mother rather than a foster, since her milk and attention meant better growth, and nurse them for a full year. Xenophon doesn't give a feeding chart, so a standardized ancient Greek dog diet isn't something we can reconstruct from him alone. Later claims about scraps, grain, or bones come from other evidence entirely. What he does say plainly: an owner who personally feeds and handles a dog builds better obedience out of it. A fairly modern-sounding observation for a 4th century BCE hunter. Once the puppy's grown, the real work starts. Introduce a young hound to scent gradually, tracks before live quarry, running alongside experienced dogs to learn pace and discipline rather than chasing wildly. A hare hunt wasn't release and hope. The netkeeper staked purse nets across a gully or run the hare was likely to take. Hounds worked the ground to pick up and hold a scent line, and the hunter followed on foot, driving the hare toward the waiting nets rather than expecting a straight kill in the open. It needed a hound working with its handler, not bolting off alone. Hunt every other day, never in strong wind, since wind kills scent and knocks down nets. And never let a hound develop a taste for chasing foxes. Xenophon calls it ruinous, because a dog that breaks off for a fox can't be trusted to stay on a hare. Some of this reads like modern training. Some of it wouldn't pass a welfare review today, and it's worth saying so. On health, one instruction stands out. A dog that refuses food doesn't get taken hunting because that's proof something's wrong. Simple, but it means an owner watching appetite closely enough to catch illness before it became a real loss. Since a hound that couldn't work wasn't just sick, it was a working animal out of action. As for what happened once the dog's working life ended, Xenophon never covers this, but other Greek evidence does. Surviving grave epigrams show dogs buried with real ceremony along roadside paths where a passerby might stop and read the stone, sometimes described in explicitly familial terms. One calls its dog a foster child. A poem attributed to Timnes mourns a small Melitaean lapdog named Bull, owned by a man called Eumelus, calling him the most faithful guardian, his voice now prisoned in the silent pathways of night. Another, attributed to Simonides, honors a hunting dog named Lycas for her courage across 3 named mountains, the kind of tribute you'd expect for a fallen hunting partner, not just a pet. And Plutarch records that when Alexander the Great's dog Peritas died, Alexander founded a city and named it after him, the same honor he gave his horse Bucephalus. Plutarch's actual claim is modest. Alexander raised the dog, loved it, and commemorated it that way. The elephant-biting, dying in his arms version is later legend, not Plutarch. Widen the lens a bit, though, and Xenophon's world wasn't the whole picture. Aristotle describes Molossian dogs from Epirus, a larger, more aggressive line kept for guarding flocks against wolves, distinct from smaller Molossians used for hunting. Cretan hounds show up in other hunting literature, and the small Melitaean sat at the opposite end, a companion dog associated with Malta and kept purely for company, not work. None of these are modern breeds. The Molossian isn't a Mastiff and the Melitaean isn't today's Maltese. But together, they show a Greek dog population doing very different jobs for very different owners. We already knew Greeks kept dogs, the pottery makes that obvious. Xenophon gives us something rarer, the actual decisions behind owning one. Which puppy, which name, which nets. Somewhere in classical Greece, a dog answered to the name Impetus, and somebody had to teach it to come when called.